Hey there guys, welcome back to my next Kerbal Space Program video in my historical progression series. This time we're going to be going to the far side of the moon with this new probe that we're designing. It's completely different to the previous ones. We're sticking a camera on top because the point of this mission is to get photos from the far side. And what's going to make this more difficult is that I'm doing it with the autopilot mods, the RemoteTech mods, which means that I have to have a direct line of sight with it the whole time with the Space Center, so I'm going to be having to think about my route and how I'm going to get there and have everything lined up before I go behind and eclipse myself from Kerbin. So yeah, it should be quite fun, and I'm remembering to put lights on it this time because I noticed that in the previous launches there was no way of actually seeing the beautiful craft that I had made because there were night launches to make the moon fit into our launch profile. So won't be doing that this time. The basis for this is the Russian mission, Lunar 3. Because of that, this is going to be called Munar 2, because it's the second mission to the Kerbin Moon. And this one was a really difficult design because I don't want to just take the photos and beam them back. I want to do something that the real probe never did. I want to get the roll of film and I want to bring it all the way back for a safe recapture so that the Kerbals using their film technology can process the images for scientific purposes, because they've got no idea what's on the far side of the moon, as we didn't actually until the real life counterpart went around the moon and took photos of the far side. If you stay tuned, I have the original photos later in the video. So here we go. My rocket's going to have solar panels that are going to fold out. It's got the camera, the parachutes, it's got two batteries that I'm just putting on now. It's got an in-stack probe body because I don't want to have an ugly probe on top. This one's going to fit in much nicer. And what you've just seen me stick on the side there, two of, I think I should have put one on, but two of, is a larger omnidirectional antenna so that I can have contact with the Space Center. And this one's a long-range dish, which means that when I get out as far as the moon, I should be able to keep some kind of contact with the Space Center. Here's the real Lunar 3, and as you can see, it looks similar to the Sputnik in that it's got the antennas sticking out at odd angles, but it also had solar panels. It had a very extensive range of scientific instruments, and I'll talk about them later. But what you can see is the black hole at the front. That's the camera shutter. And it was shielded, but it remotely opened and took photos, much in the same way that mine's going to do later. Yeah, just a little bit of admin before I finish this build. I'm currently trying to make it fit into the fairing of the previous rocket I used, because it was launched on the same rocket in real life. It was launched on the same ones that took Sputnik and Vostok, Yuri Gagarin's mission, the ones that took him up, which is the R7. And I'm trying to have a little bit of a play with the thrust to get the Russian star getting less explosive. So I'm going to play around with the fuel levels here. But yeah, the admin. I'm going to try and get more videos up this week than I have been doing. I've got 3 or 4 lined up by the end of the weekend, I hope. So if you subscribe, you can get them first and not miss out on them. Yeah, and I'm going to aim to do at least 2 videos a week now. So they won't necessarily be spread like Monday and Sunday regularly. It might be you get both of them on Wednesday or whatever, but there will be 2 videos a week from now on. So yeah, just checking the staging as we go down. Don't want any mistakes like last time. I want to get it done first time. And I think we're about ready for launch. So here we are on the launch pad, ready to go. No, I don't think it'll be a daytime launch because we've got to spin around again to find the moon. Speed up time. Where is the moon? Okay, there it is. So yeah, speed up time, and it's going to be a nighttime. Well, dawn maybe, if we're lucky. See the Kerbnik probe spinning around fast above our heads, passing 3 or 4 times in our one rotation. And there we go, everything's light up now. It's a nighttime launch, but it should be dawn just as we're cresting around the side of the planet. So yeah, throttle up a bit, quarter of the way. No, we can do a bit more than that. We've noticed that the overheating hasn't been playing that much of an effect on the engine so far, so shouldn't be anything to worry about. And it is a very nice straight launch. Yet again, I'm really happy with this rocket setup, and the cool thing is that it looks so true to life as well. So what I thought I'd do during the launch, just because I'm not too keen on skipping through the actual footage of it, but what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the bottom so you can feel free to do so yourself to skip along to the next important part in the video. But what I'm going to do through the takeoff is I'm going to talk about the actual real-life Lunar 3 probe, what it did, what it was capable of, and why it was such an important thing at the time. Yeah, Lunar 3 was much more complicated than anything that I've done in this series so far. The Sputnik probes and the American probes were basically just canisters with rudimentary experiments put inside them. But yeah, Lunar 3 had a program to it. It had the RCS jets to keep attitude control and keep it pointing towards the moon as it went around the far side of it. And all of this was programmed and timed, and it went perfectly. The Russians had an amazing track record at the beginning of the space race for not screwing up and doing things right first time. It launched on October the 7th, and it's classed as doing a lunar flyby on the 6th, but that's because it was launched on October the 7th Russian time, and when it went on October the 6th, it was Greenwich Mean Time. So it was about a couple of hours to a day later. And yeah, it did a fly past of the moon, but it managed to stay in orbit and was tracked for 207 days until it had a lunar collision. And that completed 14 orbits of the Earth in total as it went round. Yeah, it had a solar cell, so it could keep it running. It had storage batteries as well for when it went behind the moon, so that all of the sensors and programs could keep running, because it was really important that the program couldn't stop for a second, because it was done on times. At 200 seconds, activate the RCS jets or whatever. There were no rocket motors for actual course corrections, but it was able to spin on compressed gas to keep it pointed. It had a camera, it had a photographic film, and a radio transmitter, which actually sent the images back. There was a working gyroscope on it. It managed to point at the moon the whole time, and I'm going to try and emulate that in my mission. It had the antennas in the same way that the Kerbnik and Sputnik probes do, as well as the standard fare, the cosmic ray detectors, and etc. So yeah, back to the mission. And there we go, just separating that stage now. The retro rocket's firing away, and we're now on the mid stage. This one, I mean, we're already going to be going out the atmosphere. We're not at 70,000 yet, we're at 50,000, but with the momentum we've got, it'll be taking us out anyway. This is to circularize the orbit, if we were going into a circularized orbit, but at the minute it's going to push us out most of the way, and the idea is to get this to return before it drifts above 70,000 so that it won't become space debris. And now I'm setting up the antenna to point towards Kerbin. This is the long-range antenna, and it should, as long as it's pointing towards Kerbin and the Space Center is facing the moon, it'll work. And solar panels as well, they're coming out now. Yeah, now this looks a lot more like the Ranger series of missions, which were the American ones actually, and I'll do a little featurette on how well the Americans did at getting to the moon at the beginning. It didn't go as well as the Soviet attempts did. But yeah, this is a heinously overpowered engine, and rocket's got way too much fuel. Probably thinking about getting rid of one of them stages when I try the crewed missions. For the Russian ones anyway, I'm going to have to do completely new rockets for the American first steps into space. But yeah, no problems at all. It's pushing that far side of the orbit out towards the moon. And just as this creeps up, I'm gonna disconnect this stage so that I don't end up having it following me around in space and becoming a potential hazard. Because I'm launching everything equatorially, there's a chance that everything in the same plane can hit you, so if it's there, it's a risk. And away it goes. And now I'm firing. Oh, listen to the sounds of that. I love the KW Rocketry, everything they've done, the textures, the graphics, the extra utility of the parts they've introduced, and the sounds as well, they're amazing. But yeah, this efficient engine's going to put us towards the moon. And I do have an engine on the probe, so I can make this efficient engine return as well, because I can use the engine on the rocket on the probe to take me the last push. But yeah, that's at 72, so I'm hoping the retro rockets will do their job now. Should do. They're nice and powerful, so. And this is my probe. You can see it now. The daylight's just come up around the Kerbin rise, or the sunrise around Kerbin, I should say. And this is the engine firing up. It's a little probe engine, really fuel efficient. And oh, I put on power nav spinning. Why is that happening? I haven't got any SAS on there. Not in addition to the probe body that's there. But it shouldn't be spinning like that. That's very weird. Even a little bit's pushing it out. I mean, the engine's... Oh, I know what it is. Yeah, it's off balance because I've got a massive antenna on the side. Yeah, I should have thought about that. I should have either angled the engine to get a center of mass meeting the center of thrust. You can see all of that in the vehicle assembly building, but I completely forgot to do that. I just thought it would be fine. But yeah, there we go. We've got a moon encounter now. And I've got to arrange it all now. So I want to swing around the back here, and I will be able to take the photos, because I can't do that when I'm behind the moon. It has to be arranged now, because I'll be shadowed from radio signal back to the Kerbal Space Center, and I don't even know if by the time I get there the Kerbal Space Center will be rotated to face the moon. It might be on the complete opposite side of the planet at that point. So yeah, on that note, I'm going to stage the parachutes now. I've got them set to open low in the atmosphere because I have deadly reentry on, and the parachutes will catch fire and burn. So if that happens, there's no way of getting my pretty expensive film back to Kerbin to be analysed by the Kerbals. I'm quite happy with it. It's very pretty. But yeah, I've done a lot of rockets now that have been inspired by Russians, even if they haven't looked it like this one. This looks more American. But yeah, the mission profiles have all been Russian so far. They've been the first Soviet impactor to the moon, which is my previous video. My first ever video was a Russian ICBM and the Kerbal probe, the first satellite into space. People tend to forget when America won the space race by doing one thing first. They got to the moon first, which was the final objective, but it wasn't the only objective along the way by any means, no. At the beginning, the Russians completely dominated, and America was terrified. There was the Sputnik fear, and there was the first wondrous new images of the far side of the moon. It was like the Jules Verne novels of exploring the stars, and the Russians were actually the ones doing it. But for anybody who wants to see what was happening with the American probes at the same time, well, I'm going to show you the probes that the Americans had at this point. There we go. As that little montage finishes, we're at the moon when we're just swinging around the back side of it. And the amazing thing is we've got connection with the Kerbal Space Center as it just pops up on the horizon. That couldn't have been more tight. So what I'm doing now is activating the camera. Yeah, the real Lunar 3 took several images. They were mostly far zoomed out ones that were enough to get shading and overall composition of the far side of the moon and pick out certain elements. And because the Russians were the first one to go there, they got to name them all. For example, the largest one I think was called the Sea of Moscow. You know, because patriotic reasons and because there was no name for the other side. So scientists, as they developed the features, picked them out, but obviously that the first people to see the photos were the Russians, and the Russian scientists were the ones who got to name them. So, and this is us speeding away now, and these are the last few glimpses that we'll get for quite a while, until we get a regular orbiter up there. And for comparison's sake, this was the first image that was taken. This is highly enhanced and was for public release, but there you go. So this is our little probe, and it's got to try and get its way back home now, so we can deliver the film. The Kerbals wouldn't know if this has been successful at this point. They've got no idea. And I'm speeding this up because this was a long process. This was me trying to battle the rotation of the ship because it was unbalanced, and get it back, and focus with the line of sight of the radio communications. It was a good a good 3 hours. But yeah, there you go. See, spinning out of control. And I've got to avoid coming back into contact with the moon because that's just going to spin me out of my orbit again, possibly launch me out into the sun. But yeah, there's a 6-hour window in Kerbal time before the Space Center does its rotate. No, 3-hour window before it passes from sun up to sundown horizon. But eventually I get it to about 36,000. It needs to be about that, otherwise it would burn up completely, and there would be no point coming back. I would just create a fireball in the sky. But that's me separating my unbalanced stage now. And please still be 29,000. Okay. That's probably fine. Actually, I've got a heat shield and everything, so I should be able to get this down. So speed this up with time warp. And yeah, like I say, I've got the clouds are a mod, so if you haven't got them, you don't need to change your graphic settings. Look in the links below, and you can find the name of I think it's the City Lights mod if you look for that on Google. And all I've done is delete the city lights because there are no cities on Kerbin, so I felt it's a bit weird to have them. But I love the clouds. Just checking the parachutes are set up, and yeah, I've staged, and I can't see that they're blue because they should be blue if they're going to open. But I'm just gonna have to hope it because yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I'm sure I activated them. I could spin the video back, but I remember opening them, changing the staging order. So I've set it to retrograde now, and I've lost communication. There's no communication satellites up, so just got to hope that I can point the right end towards the fire. And here we go. I'm probably going to lose that antenna. Yeah, there we go. Whoops. And all of it's heating up now. I would think the solar panels will be next. Ooh, pretty explosions. And you can hear the wind whooshing as I'm inside the atmosphere. Another night side landing. I am so sorry, but there was just no way to make this mission work and have the moon be sunlit on the far side. Oh, solar panels gone. Lost all that excess weight. And now it looks like a diving bell, or no, not diving bell, like a buoy for the sea. If you ever see me right-clicking on the heat shield, it's just to check that the temperature isn't too high, because if it does, the shielding reduces, and then that can explode and leave the rest of my vehicle at risk. And yeah, there was a cut in there. The reason why was because the same fraps issue as last video happened, and this is just me cutting back to the quick save. But yeah, nothing missed. It wasn't, I promise that I didn't crash and die when I hit the floor. It was that I quit. And all that happened was that when I moved the mouse, it only recorded the mouse moving, so I had a white screen after a while. But, oh, ablative shield, that is so low. So low, but I've just managed to survive. And you can see the atmospheric reentry effects now. This is not burning up, this is just like a heat. I don't know what they're showing here. Is it the going faster than the speed of sound? Is this the sonic boom, or is this the moisture contrail kind of effect? Not quite sure. And the parachutes are open. That's really lucky, but just gotta wait for them to open fully and not snap my machine in two. Ooh, sigh of relief. It is really satisfying seeing that after such a long time invested in in a mission like this. But yeah, I'm prepared to say that this has gone well. This has gone very, very well. As long as it doesn't explode in a second. Nope, it's gone amazing. Toppled over, but waterproof seals, can't beat them. Anyway, stay tuned and subscribe for new videos in my historical space program series. I'll see you next time.